And welcome to the SpartanMag.com VCast. Jim Comparoni, Paul Konyndyk, Columbus, Ohio, Nationwide Arena. Michigan State, big win today in the first round of the East Regional NCAA Tournament 2023. Michigan State 78. That's the wrong score.
72-62.
72-62. I got the Marquette box score here. 72-62. Yeah. Michigan State won, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know if you saw it or not, but Michigan State played pretty well. Balanced offense, defense. Key plays when they needed them. Very good defense. Saw the defense come back around. Had to have it against a good USC team. Michigan State made it happen when it mattered the most. So credit to Michigan State. Credit to Tom Izzo, the coaching staff. They've been on them, prodding them. Today they delivered. Coaches got it out of them. Players got it done. They move on. Good win for Michigan State today.
Yeah, and the way they did it was impressive. You look at the two guys that USC has that are like all Pac-12. These guys are good players, both potential NBA players. Boogie Ellis held to 6 points today on, I think it was 3 of 12 shooting. The fact that he only attempted 3 three-pointers, that tells you all you need to know about how airtight the defense was. Tyson Walker was out on him as far as he's been out on anybody this year. And there was a couple of times where Boogie Ellis wanted to shoot, but he was scared to. And it was really impressive. The other guy, Drew Peterson, he scored a few more points, but not in the second half. Those two guys combined 7 of 23 or 7 of 22.
7 of 22.
And 17 points. That's a win for Michigan State. So they did what they had to do on defense, taking away a lot of things. That opened some stuff up for some other USC players, but when it mattered in the second half, that defense was as good as we've seen this year.
Yeah.
And they knew it, and they locked down, and they kept on getting stops even though they weren't getting rebounds. And that to me is impressive, because I think one of the big things with defense is you got to get rebounds, because a lot of the times that you're getting a lot of points scored on you, they're second chance points. Michigan State, even when USC had second chance opportunities, they're doing a good job on defense, either contesting shots or getting turnovers or steals. Really positive for Michigan State moving forward.
Yeah, Tyson Walker. We were wondering about guarding Peterson. We were wondering about guarding Boogie Ellis. And Tyson Walker, he was denying passing lanes. Like you said, Michigan State doesn't usually deny pass lanes. Worried about back cuts. They don't like to give that up. USC's not a team maybe that looks for back cuts to Ellis a whole lot. I don't know. Maybe they do, but in other games. But Michigan State played differently. And Tyson Walker, a senior, we don't know if he'll come back next year or not. But at this point, this is maybe a signature moment. It's not a game in which he scored 30, but at both ends, taking over the point, playing, primary defense against Boogie Ellis, helping Michigan State move on. It was a big Michigan State moment for Tyson Walker today.
This might have been his best game. I mean, truthfully, he started out scoring points. He was 3 for 3 to start out with. He didn't get the three-point line, didn't have very many opportunities to shoot from there. He missed a couple open ones, but in terms of all-around impact, we're not even really thinking about, A.J. Hogarth's not in the game, because Tyson Walker's running that thing as well as A.J. Hogarth could. And to be honest with you, I felt like A.J. Hogarth sitting on the bench watching Tyson Walker run the show as well as he could have. I think that motivated A.J. Hogarth to do his thing. And down the stretch, when Michigan State build the lead up to 15 points, I thought one of the key junctures there was A.J. Hogarth drives. He has an opportunity to try to score himself, but instead he kicks to the corner. It's a three-point shot. Not many open threes for Michigan State today, but in those key junctures, that's where you see growth.
And that's where you saw Izzo celebrate the most.
Right. Yeah, Izzo was almost in tears at that point because he was so excited.
Was following what he's been trying to get him to do for a couple of years.
And thank God for A.J. Hogarth doing that, because if he hadn't done that and he was missing his free throws afterwards, Izzo would have been really upset. But I thought A.J. Hogarth did a nice job. I thought early in the game, he did some really good things on Peterson. Peterson took some crazy shots.
That's what he does. He shoots fall-away jumpers and he made one early in the game, and they're crazy shots for the rest of humanity, but for him.
Right, but some of those crazy shots, some shots are crazier than others. I'll give you an example. In the second half, he had that fall-away jumper at the free throw line. I think Malik Hall played pretty good defense on him. But that's a crazy shot for a lot of people. That's not for him. I'm talking about the ones that look like crazy rainbows when he's falling down. The thing that Michigan State did a nice job of with him was not defending at a high level, but also not allowing him to be super high effective passer. Boogie Ellis is the one that took advantage of the defense that Michigan State was playing on him and got the ball to some teammates. I think Boogie Ellis had really 4 assists and 0 turnovers in the first half. But you look at Peterson. He's a guy that usually gets a high number of assists. He did not give any assists today, and Michigan State did a nice job of not only limiting him as a scorer, but also taking away some of his passing.
Yeah, Izzo said something interesting after the game. He said they were worried about the way Peterson can back you down. because he'll back you down, against Hogard, against a smaller defender, and get that fall-away jumper. Might not go in, but he'll get that shot off. Or he passes out of that thing a lot. He'd back down once, and I think he might have made the shot. Back down once and maybe passed it, but they didn't do that much. That's something he can do a lot. Izzo revealed that they were worried about that. I'm not sure what Michigan State's answer would have been if you'd have gotten hot with that. But he gets assists from down there also, but didn't really try to back down Hogard a lot in the first half. Second half, Hogard gets his third foul 3 minutes into the game. For much of the rest of the game, Hogard couldn't guard him anymore. They didn't want him to get any more foul trouble, so Malik Hall guarded him. And Peterson was not productive. He missed an open three-pointer, went behind a ball screen, and Malik Hall went under the ball screen, which I'm pretty sure they're not supposed to do against that guy. It just happened on that occasion. Open, missed it. And there's another time Peterson came off a ball screen, open, missed it. When Peterson was away from the ball, running around through screens away from the ball, Malik Hall was having a really, really, really hard time keeping up with him, because that's not his game. We talked about that all year, and he's got that foot that's still bothering him. And I was tweeting at the time, I'm like, Michigan State was up by 5, by 7, by 8, and I said, but they still don't have an answer for that. Right. But USC didn't really go to that. I don't want to coach their team or whatever. I can't even remember what they did, but I was like, man, if they just kind of go to him as a catch-and-shoot Reggie Miller type of guy right now, Malik Hall cannot stay up with him. And USC didn't go to that, and I thought that was a weakness at Michigan State because they were protecting Hogard's foul trouble. Malik Hall was doing what he could, but they got away with it. Michigan State did.
Yeah, and you just wonder sometimes, like a guy like Ellis, like if he's allowed to go off early, maybe he stays hot the rest of the game. He's had his own issues with injuries, and he had to work quite a bit. I thought Malik Hall, you're right. It's not advantageous as a matchup, but I thought when he was challenged directly, and it wasn't like he wasn't playing chase. When he was challenged directly, he was more than up to the task, and
off the dribble and facing up.
Yeah, and he did a really good job of.
And they needed it.
He rose up today because he wasn't hurting. My question moving forward is, as much as Malik Hall played today, what is he going to have left, and how does Michigan State counter that? Because I thought Jaden Akins, when he was in the game, he was an elite defender today.
Yeah.
Him and Tyson Walker. Michigan State was so good at times against like some of those guys, but Jaden Akins, Tyson Walker, they played defense at that level at their peak level that we saw earlier this year. It's easy to disregard sometimes like a USC and say, well, maybe they weren't as good as people said, but it's rare. It's really hard to take two guys away like the way Michigan State did today, and especially a guy like Boogie Ellis. I'm really surprised that he didn't go and get like a handful of buckets at some point, because he tried and he didn't have it. And Akins was really good. Michigan State was good. You saw a little bit of transition. I just like the way Michigan State responded from adversity. Up 10 early, USC fights back, ties it, and then out of the halftime, Michigan State just clamped down, played as good at 5 minutes of defense as we've seen for a while, and set the tone for the rest of that half. That was really impressive to me.
It's progress. Trey Holloman played some good defense in there for a little bit. Izzo threw a couple tantrums and guys responded. Maddie Sissoko had a real good beginning to the game on the glass with a block shot, ball screen defense, and Izzo was mad about him going up with one hand for a rebound once or twice. So Izzo got up to him, really confronted him. And another time there was a ball screen error between Sissoko and Malik Hall. Again, that's a 5-3 ball screen defense. Though we've been saying that a lot. That's not something Malik Hall's done a lot of in terms of being a wing in a ball screen defense situation. I got open for a layup. They put Kohler in there, and Izzo lit up Matty Sissoko. And increasingly this year, Izzo has discovered and gotten to know Sissoko well enough to know that he can yell at him. His first couple years, Izzo, he's got to bring him along and those type of things. He only pushes those buttons if he knows they can take it, or if they're at, like, there's no other choice. It's the last stand. That's not the case with Sissoko. He can take it. So Izzo waking him back up. That worked out. Sissoko was solid the rest of the day. But Carson Cooper, your guy came in. You've been calling for that for a few weeks. He plays ball screen defense with good lateral movement, good length as a defender, and happened to be there to clean up some athletic garbage points. Carson Cooper had an impact on this game.
Yeah, I felt like he's got the highest defensive ceiling. Like you look at the two guys coming in, everyone was excited about Kohler, and they should have been, because he's got a lot of skill, and he delivered a bucket today as well. But you look at what Michigan State needs, And in this game, they needed rim protection, but they also needed good ball screen defense. And one of the things, like I think one of the adjustments was in the second half. Like Michigan State was getting killed on some of those screens with some of the, some of those dunks, some of those slips, and Wings did a better job of kind of like buying the bigs sometimes, so they could hedge and then they could get back into position. Yes. So you wonder why maybe some of those dunks weren't there in the second half. I think Cooper did a nice job. He did a nice job recovering, and he played 10. That's the most. I don't think this is a guess, but 10 minutes in the second half is probably the most that he's played this year.
I'll bet it is. I'm sure.
In a half, and but I mean, he went from being a guy that played an average of 5 minutes a game, 4.9. To being a guy that played 13 good minutes, and he gave Michigan State some energy. He also gave him some rebounding, and I don't know if you probably can't do that against a Purdue where you've got you've got a monstrous 300-pound center, but Cooper is stronger than he looks, and we've said this for a long time with his lower body. He's got a strong lower body, and I kind of liked it today because he took advantage of an opportunity, and sometimes you see it in March and sometimes you don't, but. And this isn't guarantee he's going to do it the next game. Next game it might be Kohler that does it, or the next game they might have to go smaller, or whatever. But this is a really good step for him. I think one of the best things you can do if you play at Michigan State as a big man is show that you can defend ball screens.
Absolutely.
I mean, I think back to
if you can't play.
I think back to guys like Marquise Gray. Nick Ward. Every guy that every once in a while you got 10 points. But what are you doing against ball screens? Because, that doesn't show up in the point total. But to me, the 6 points that he scored today were gravy. They're energetic points, they're loud points, but playing ball screen defense at Michigan State matters more than whatever scoring you're going to get.
Because you cannot advance in March if you're giving up slippage and leakage and ball screen defense. Cooper came in there, stopped the bleeding a little bit, and gave him some bonus points in the meantime. That fired people up, fired up Izzo a little bit. I asked Izzo why he ran out there. I don't know if it was on TV or not, but after that second dunk, USC calls timeout, and Hoggard comes out and gives Carson Cooper a chest bump.
Oh, I know why he ran out there.
Because he hung on the rim?
He hung on the rim. He's so lucky he didn't get a technical foul on that. And he was just, Cooper was like...
That's what Izzo was yelling at him about. Don't hang on the rim,
Right.
And, he went out there and yelled at him while everybody else was celebrating.
It was funny because you had assistant coaches and GAs, bumping him with his shoulder, telling him what a great job he's doing, and you got your head coach screaming at you,
tearing you down
on the rim.
Tearing you down. So that was a good moment. Izzo was very happy after this game. He's always happy after victories. But he said something I thought was interesting, a little bit different. Maybe it'll be his philosophy for 7 or 8 minutes. But he says he wants to live in the moment a little bit more like his players do. Instead of worrying about the future and thinking about the past so much, he wants to live in the moment a little bit more like players do, which drives him nuts sometimes. But he wanted to enjoy this win over a quality team. USC, number 10 seed, tied for second place in the Big Ten, in the Pac-12, Big Ten team beats them. And good moment for Tom Izzo, good moment for Michigan State. And Izzo was enjoying this a little bit, is enjoying that the guys are responding to some of those things that he's been on them about for a long time. Collectively, they came together as a team because the team together wants to get this done and keep going.
What I wanted to say about that is I don't believe for a second that Izzo has all of a sudden become a guy that's going to enjoy the moment. Why he is able to enjoy the moment is because guys responded, and there was some little things. He mentioned it in his off-podium interview outside the locker room. Malik Hall went and tried to do the jump hook. And, I'm sure all those fadeaways that Malik Hall's done throughout his career that Izzo's kind of gritted his teeth because they work at times. He's wanted Malik Hall to be able to do the jump hook because you can't get that blocked. It can't get blocked if you do it right. And Malik Hall did that. He only went 2 for 7, only scored 6 points, but they were big points in the way he did it. Another thing on the bench, Izzo was getting into Tyson Walker about something. Oh, it was because Tyson Walker reached on a foul, and Izzo's like, you can't do that because we need
early in the game, 3 minutes in.
Yeah, and Izzo was all over Tyson Walker, and Tyson Walker chirped back at Izzo, and Malik Hall basically told Tyson Walker to shut the heck up, and Izzo liked that. He liked the way Jaden Akins responded. He liked the way you rebounded. He liked the way a lot of guys did a lot of different things. So that's the reason why Izzo can, live in the moment.
Also, he can feel good about it because ideally, he would have liked to have seen this type of progress and this type of traction 3-4 weeks ago. Coming into this game, you didn't know. I didn't know whether this team was going to respond, how Hoggard was going to respond, all those things. And when it goes out and it happens, Izzo's happy that some of his work worked today. Now, it happens to be March 17th, first round of the NCAA Tournament. I'm sure he felt that they had a good game in them coming, but he felt that way before the Big Ten tournament game also, and was negatively surprised. Right. So it's late. It's a team that's, if it comes together still, it's happening late. That part of the building process is still going behind schedule, more delayed than anticipated because of the injuries earlier in the year and other things.
I don't think we've ever said it was ahead of schedule. There's always something to do, and you know, I think some of the things with the Big Ten play, when you play a team the second time and they're well coached, you know, they're able to make little adjustments and do some things against you. You know, like Ohio State, well coached, they did some things. You know, but this was good for Michigan State. And not only to score 70 points or 72 points against USC, to do it the way they did it. You know, I was impressed with Michigan State, how many easy looks they got at the rim. And, you know, there were times when the ball stopped moving, and that was one of the things that was driving Izzo crazy. But when they moved the ball and when guys were you know, active out there, good things happened. And it's funny because, like, about a month ago, everyone was talking about how Michigan State was playing great defense but couldn't score 70 points. And to keep on going in the NCAA tournament, you've got to play the defense that was being played before, and you got to be able to hit tough shots. I thought in the first half, Michigan State hit a lot of late shot clock shots. You saw Joey Hauser didn't have much room. They did a nice job on him on the perimeter, but he had a couple nice off of set plays. Tyson Walker hit a couple big shots. Jaden Akins continues to be a guy in late and shot clock situations that's getting better and better at driving and scoring, hitting those pull-up jumpers. And
when he drove on that one and got that foul, he didn't finish the end one after the timeout, but to go up 45-40 in the second half, end of the shot clock, goes in, soars against the best shot blocker in the Pac-12, and takes the bump and scores. It's like what you talked about a couple weeks ago, that sometimes, again, in situations like this, against excellent competition, those that have high ceilings of potential do things like that, like Mo Ager against Duke, Morris Peterson against Duke. Morris Peterson, Jaden Akins has that. He can just press that gas pedal a little bit more than others have, and finish something like that when no one else on the team would be able to finish that, and it jacks everybody up. That's a big moment.
Hey, man, that adrenaline.
And there's going to be more of those.
The thing that surprised me on that play is he had so much force going up. You know, and there's a couple other times where he went in for something, but he had so much force going up on that, you know, I would have expected him to. He's only 175 pounds. I would have expected him to be moved a little bit on that. He just kept on going, man. He's like he jumped with a lot of force, but the adrenaline and that kind of horsepower. He had that huge run-out dunk in the first half.
I've been a blitz counter break too.
I've been waiting for that to happen all season long, and I think we would have seen a lot more of that. We would have seen a lot more of that if he hadn't had the foot injury. You know, so
they're still coming together, Paul. Now they got to play Marquette. 7 days ago, Marquette was one of the top 3 or 4 teams in the country that weekend when they won the Big East tournament, blew out Xavier in the Big East championship game. Had a little trouble with UConn. UConn's a good team. Squeaked by them, squeaked by St. John's in the quarterfinals of the Big East tournament. A very good team. Got off to a lead against Vermont tonight. Vermont came back at them. Then Marquette went ahead and won comfortably by about 78-61. Good team, regular season champion of the Big East, conference tournament champion of the Big East. They are rolling and feeling great about themselves, but all of that doesn't mean anything. They got 40 hours to get ready for Tom Izzo. 6 days ago, I would have said, man, Marquette's way ahead of where Michigan State is, but Michigan State has made up some ground based on how they adhered to game plan and came together and feel good about adhering to a game plan, made some shots, and a team victory for Michigan State. They are more capable of competing with Marquette right now than I would have known for sure 48 hours ago or a week ago, but what I maybe anticipated 2 or 3 weeks ago was possible. Marquette's had a great season to this point, and Michigan State versus Marquette tomorrow, and we'll talk more about it tomorrow when we come back for interviews, but it's going to be similar in terms of a challenge to that Pittsburgh game in Denver when Pittsburgh was a Big East champion, second round game in Denver, Drew Neitzel's senior year, and that was a cage fight. Michigan State won that one. Pittsburgh played great that day. Michigan State won and ran into a very good Memphis team in the Sweet 16. But Marquette tomorrow is going to be that level of an opponent like Pittsburgh was back then, which I still think was one of the best second-round teams Michigan State's beaten, or in general in the Izzo era.
I talked to Tom Izzo about that the other night at the Selection Sunday. Before they heard their seed, we were talking about some different stuff, and I was talking to him about USC because they had a chance to play them, and talking to him about the possibility of going to Denver because that was very much up to the open. I'm like, hey, what did you think of that Pittsburgh game, like when you guys played? And that was a great game. That was a fantastic game. And
it gets forgotten about in the annals of history because there's been so many big wins. That was a big one.
Yeah. One of the best, probably arguably the best Pittsburgh team like in recent memory.
And that helped set the stage toward Final Four the next year and Final Four the year after that. Because Michigan State had some stumbling years in 04 and 06. They came out in 08. I think that was 08 when they did that.
So,
I mean, that's going to be tough with
the thing
Marquette.
The interesting thing to me is the rallying cry. And, these guys on this team are pretty close. The rallying cry for Joey Hauser. He's a guy that came from Marquette. To me, that's one of those intangibles that goes in Michigan State's direction. And Joey Hauser, you could say it could go the other way. I don't think so with Joey Hauser. He's had such a good year, and he's been so consistent, and he's so fundamentally sound. Even when he's missing lately, it looks great. He's feeling good about himself. The teammates are going to rally around him, and there's going to be a lot of Marquette fans here, but there's not going to be more Marquette fans and Michigan State fans.
And Michigan State was good. Michigan State fans were pretty strong today.
Yeah, I mean, for a noon game, I mean, the risk with a game out at noon is like being a sleepy crowd. They were not sleepy. It was very partisan Michigan State, and I think it was such that the State played as hard as they could. They won over a lot of those neutral fans, and I think some of those neutral fans, if they're here on Sunday, they're going to be rooting for Michigan State as well. This is Big Ten country.
There were Ohio State fans rooting for Michigan State today. You could see
absolutely.
It. So it all turned out really well for Michigan State. As far as Marquette goes, we'll talk more about that tomorrow. As far as Joey Hauser goes, he was asked about it. You probably saw the interview. He just was asked briefly about Marquette, and I can't remember what he said. He said it was important, and he's going to. I didn't say anything bulletin board-ish.
He's not going to.
But you can tell that he's excited about it. Now, Joey Hauser's been at Michigan State for so long. I don't know if any of those guys, he played with any of those guys. And that was 2 coaches ago. This is Shaka Smart's second year, and it was a different coach.
It doesn't matter, man. You see it all the time, like guys that transferred from one school to the other, guys that were recruits, almost went to one school, then played for another. Like you see it all the time. It doesn't matter who's coaching. It's like it has something to do with the uniform. And I'll tell you, on that Selection Sunday show, when Michigan State got the bracket, there was a big cheer there, not because they were playing USC, but those players knew that Joey might be able to play Marquette. And it's like one of those kind of like, those side stories. It's going to be interesting.
All right, we'll be back on Saturday for press conference coverage. But right now for Friday, getting into evening here in Columbus, Michigan State moves on. Big win for Michigan State, and if they can get one more, that makes the season a success. Any way you want to cut it. A lot of people thinking that was not possible in the first half of that Nebraska game a couple weeks ago. They thought that some people thought it was a lost cause. Well, Izzo went to work, made some progress. There's more progress to be made, and Marquette's got to deal with Mr. Izzo now and his cast of merry players that are fired up to play for him, for Michigan State, for themselves, and for Joey Hauser. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be fun. It's March Madness. Anything else, Paul? For Paul Konyndyk, Jim Comparoni, been watching the VCast from Columbus, Ohio, for SpartanMag.com.